is this Tennessee's best team in terms of making a deep run into the NCAA tournament? I will go ahead and cast my vote now. Yes. And I don't believe it's Tennessee's most talented team. I think that Tony Harris crew with Vincent Yarbrough and Ron Slay is the most talented, but I always had doubts about coaching and the approach to the tournament. So, Caleb, given all that as a whole, I would say that, yes, in my lifetime, this is Tennessee's best opportunity to make a deep run in the NCAA tournament.
1000%. When you consider the way this team is constructed, who is coaching this team, and their bracket, which I broke down for you guys yesterday, this is Tennessee's shot to make a Final Four. This is their shot to win a national title. We're going to talk about Rick Barnes' legacy in a little while. This is Rick Barnes' best shot that he's ever had to win a national title. Now, there are some matchup issues for Tennessee. Don't get me wrong. I talked about it yesterday. If they run into a tempo team or a team with size like Florida, they're going to struggle. They wouldn't face Florida until the national title game, first off. So Florida could easily lose before then. No, more importantly than that, I talked yesterday how they are dominant against slow-paced teams. But, Dave, it's not like they can't beat fast-paced teams. It's just a little bit – it's just left more to chance if they play fast-paced teams.
It is left more to chance, and it has to be a fast-paced team that is really good at being fast-paced. I mean, there are going to be some teams that play four guards and shoot a lot because they're a smaller school. They're going to shoot a lot of threes. They've only got one big man on their roster, and they're going to rotate around him. You're going to see a lot of that when you talk about the Yales and some of those mid-major schools. But you have to be able to do it at a high level, or you get strangled by this boa constrictor defense that Tennessee has. So you have to be able to do either at a high level. I mean, this is a very good basketball team. This is certainly one of the top 10 teams in the country and probably one of the top 5 teams in the country. So this is a very good basketball team. And you can't just say that style's going to win out, Caleb.
No, you can't. Not at all. This team, and there is, and I want to just point out, this team, based on the KenPom readings and things like that, Tennessee is one of only 6 teams capable of winning the national title based on where teams stand in offensive and defensive efficiency in KenPom ratings year to year. Okay, this team is, first of all, let's point this out. They're known for their defense. They appear to be, they come across as very slow defensively, but at the same time, Dave, one of the things that no one's talking about is Tennessee's in the top 20 in offensive efficiency. They have one of the best, most efficient offenses in basketball. So while they slow the pace down, it's not like they can't score, and
right. And there's something to be said for being efficient. I mean, you would love to run out there and score 85 points and the opposition score 45, but you're not setting up. And I think that's part of the reason that people got frustrated with Tennessee's football team last year is because they weren't designed, oddly enough, under Josh Heupel to be an explosive team because you had a limited quarterback because I don't believe he was comfortable because of the offensive tackle. So it's the chicken or the egg. They ended up working that out. All right. Why is this team better suited for a deep run than, let's say, those Jerry Green teams, which I think you would agree, Caleb, that I don't want to put words in your mouth, but would you say that Jerry Green team that had Ron Slay as a 6-man, what year would that be?
Would have been 2001.
Okay, so 2001, I think, was going into it, and in retrospect, Tennessee's best chance to make a deep tournament run until last year. Last year was Dalton Connect, and I love being able to put everything on one guy's shoulders in the NCAA tournament. I think sometimes that can be optimum if you have a very special player, and I think he's proven to be a special player. Now, you don't want to put everything on Charles Hathaway's shoulders, but when you put everything on a superstar's shoulders in a clutch game, I think he comes through most of the time. So, to me, I would rank him like this. This year's Vols' best opportunity to make a deep run in the NCAA tournament. Last year's Vols number 2, and then that 2000-2001 crew, if I were to rate them 1 through 3.
And funny enough, that 2001 crew is the one that got bounced out in the first round that flamed out towards the end. But in terms of talent, that team was loaded with talent. I agree with you. The only one I would say is the 2018-2019 Vols with Grant Williams, Admiral Schofield. That team definitely had a chance. And they were a terrible foul call away from actually going to the Final Four that year. And so I'll give that one too. I think that one's probably third in my book. I actually agree with you that the Dalton Connect team is second because you can put it on Dalton's shoulders. The thing that we always forget, though, is when you put the game on a superstar's shoulders, Dave, it only works if the role players step up and do their job. Michael Jordan didn't start winning rings until the other players were stepping up and doing their jobs. And Jonas Adu couldn't step up and do his job last year. That's the only reason they got bounced out in the NCAA tournament. So looking back, I'm like, oh, they weren't capable of doing it because one of their key role players was too mentally soft to do it. So
he was outplayed as well. I just I don't think that he's going to win that battle. And I think he quit in the second half.
Yeah, I don't mind being outplayed. Role players get outplayed a lot. I mean, just to give you an example, I'm pretty sure Bill Whittington got outplayed by Patrick Ewing when the Bulls would play the Knicks, right? In the playoffs?
Bill was fantastic. Don't you ever say that.
Okay, yeah. Well, I'm sure he got outplayed by Patrick Ewing. But I'm sure the rule was just do enough so Michael Jordan can take over the game. All you needed from Jonas Adu last year was do enough so Dalton Connect can take over the game. You're going to lose the battle, but don't get wrecked. So, okay. And he got wrecked.
Dylan, with a post on our message board, we encourage you to post. Dylan says, I'm not sure if we get into foul trouble, we don't really have the depth to overcome a dry shooting spell. We'll address that. Today's tough question: is this Tennessee team the best ever in terms of suited to make a deep tournament run? That's today's tough question, brought to you by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney, banksandjones.com.
Why Banks & Jones? Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks & Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks & Jones. T. Scott Jones. Banks & Jones.
Caleb, I'm sorry I cut you off. You were going to say?
I was going to say, yes. Is it their best team ever to make a shot at the national title based on their talent and who's in their path?
Okay, we did not address that. We have earlier in the week, but for those that didn't hear, I mean, this is a defensive-minded bracket. Tennessee's a defensive-minded team. Statistically, other than Houston, they're by far the best defensive team in this crew. Tennessee's 9th in defensive efficiency. Houston's number 1. But I question Houston's depth. So, yes, but the draw is – this draw, they might as well call it the defense region. I mean, it's all about guys playing defense for the most part.
Yeah, I think they're actually, and I'm going to give them credit to a certain degree. I don't know if this is good or bad overall, but I feel like they try to minimize upsets and increase the quality of play by having similar styles go at each other in each bracket, and then make it to where the Final Four is a clash of styles. Does that make sense? Because the biggest thing that causes upsets is a clash of styles.
Well, they're not really doing that, though. I don't think.
You don't think? You don't think they purposely put all the defensive teams in one bracket?
No,
I don't think it was just a happenstance.
Yeah, I mean, I really do. I mean, I think they're just looking. I don't think they're looking at style. I think some of these cats show up and they just look at the RPI ratings or the KenPom or whatever it's called, and they just kind of fill it in from there. I don't believe there's any way in creation that these guys are watching all of these games throughout the year. I mean, maybe,
I don't believe they're watching all the games.
I mean, maybe they divvy it up or something, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's some of Bubba's boys, Bubba Cunningham, the head of the committee or the selection process. I wouldn't be surprised if some of Bubba's boys, if they hadn't even seen Tennessee play. I mean, that I don't know. It seems like this committee and what I've learned from it. Maybe I'm jaded, Caleb. Because I think the college football playoff committee was so orchestrated. I guess I'm beginning to wonder if the basketball committee is orchestrated as well.
Well, you're sounding like they're too lazy to be orchestrated, is what you're suggesting.
Well, I'm suggesting they get a phone call from television networks, not ESPN. I don't want to go down that road again.
No.
Unsung said Barnes looked kind of down in his presser yesterday. I don't think so. I wouldn't worry about that. I think he's pretty much a solemn sort of cat anyway, like a well thought out guy.
Yeah. Rick Barnes is, I mean, he almost always kind of looks a little down. And it's I don't know. I will say this though. He gave off this. I didn't see down. I saw relaxed, and I'm going to give him a lot of credit for this, Dave, because like, if you think about it, looking back, Rick Barnes is. I mean, it was almost stoic to me. It reminds me, you always talk. I'll never forget the story you and Fred White told me about how Tennessee always got tense the week of the Florida game, and the '98 team, the week of the Florida game, just made it almost like a regular business trip, or not a business week, another game. And I'll never forget when Tennessee runs through the tee out that day. Fulmer just casually walks out, very stoic, looking like he's just there's a moment on the video where he just casually walks to the headset guy to give him the headset. And he looked more relaxed than ever. And that's the vibe I got from Barnes yesterday, honestly.
I think he's good. Derek says, y'all mean to tell me Lofton and them losing to Greg Oden and Mike Conley by 1 point. They were the national champs that year under Pearl. How were they not in there? The team was way underrated. Well, they are perhaps underrated because going into the tournament, I did not think that team was well equipped to make a deep run. They ended up proving me wrong. And if not for, Derek points out, they had a big lead at halftime against Ohio State, but they were undersized. If they're able to overcome that, Caleb, and go deep, they prove me even more wrong. But I didn't go into that tournament thinking that they were well equipped to make a deep run. Did you?
No. And remember, they were unranked for most of the year that year. The team that lost by 1 to Ohio State, yes, they were a very good team, but they weren't going to win a national championship. That wasn't going to happen. That they were equipped to make a deep run, and I actually picked them in the Final Four that year, believe it or not, because had they gotten to the Elite Eight, they would have played Memphis, who they blew out earlier in the year. But okay, then they would have to play UCLA, who would just overwhelm them with size, and then they would have to play Florida in the national title game, and that Florida team would be loaded. Now, yes, they were built for a Final Four run, but not as equipped as this team. Like that team would have had to beat Ohio State and then go beat Memphis. And I'm not saying they wouldn't have beaten Memphis, but it would have been hard to beat Memphis twice.
Well, I mean, not even moving forward. I'm just talking about heading into that. I mean, Unsung points out Bradshaw was underrated on that team too, Derek. But listen, I don't mean this to sound mean, but when Dane Bradshaw is one of your key players, then your program is not to the same level that Tennessee is now.
He was playing power forward too.
Yes.
As a 6'4" guy. I love Dane Bradshaw. If Dane Bradshaw was on the next year's team that had Tyler Smith, they're winning a national title because you plug Dane Bradshaw in a point guard, which Tennessee couldn't find a point guard, and it's over. But that team, like, you would have a point with 2007, 2008. But then the Chris Lofton cancer came. But 2006, 2007 wasn't a national title caliber team. They just got a hot run. And so this team, by the way, and I want to point this out real quick. This team this year, the highest Ken Palm rating Tennessee's ever had at plus 31.13, and the tied for the highest ranked they've ever been. I mean, if that doesn't tell you that they're the best equipped for the Final Four, I don't know what does.
David said if ZZ and Lanier get into foul trouble, I don't believe Boswell or Dubar can contribute enough to help in a close game. Gainey is on and off in big games. Gainey could be an X factor. And Derek points out y'all totally ignored all of Pearl's teams like they never existed. No, I just didn't. I didn't feel like going into any of those tournaments. To me, I'm just giving you my honest opinion before those tournaments, which he proved me wrong, definitely with the run that ended against the Buckeyes. But I didn't think that team would make a deep run. I look at this team, and given draw and everything, I think it makes a deep run. When Tennessee had the draw of Delaware, Southwest Missouri State, I thought that they were equipped and had the draw to make a deep run. Turns out they didn't want to be in the tournament for some reason that year. I don't know why. And then last year's team with Connect, I thought was well equipped to make a deep run. So I'm talking about, in retrospect, I was wrong, and Derek, you were right. But I'm just telling you what I felt like going into the tournament. I feel like this is the best team that I've been around since I've covered Tennessee basketball. That'd be 2000. And it's, to me, it's the best team headed into the tournament. Now, to your point, Derek, if you want to say guard play is key in March, and it is, then Lofton and Juwan were pretty good.
Guard play and length are key, though. And I want to point this out to Derek, too, because I agree with you, Dave. And there's just one stat that just proves this. Guess how many players from Tennessee under Bruce Pearl actually got selected in the NBA draft?
Yarbrough did.
That was not Bruce Pearl.
Oh, I'm sorry. You said Pearl. I thought you were talking about since 2000. I had 2000 in my head. Pearl, I don't think one did.
Just one. Tobias Harris, who was a great player, but that was his. Right. But wait, that was his last year there. Well, I'm sorry, two. Tobias Harris and Jordan McRae. They were only there Pearl's last year. That 2011 team was the only team he had on the going into the NCAA tournament at Tennessee with any NBA draft picks on that roster. And guess what? That 2011 team was a 9 seed, and everybody knew Pearl was fired before the NCAA tournament started. So there was no chance. No one thought they were going to make a deep run because everybody knew it was over because we knew about the scandal. So that alone, I mean, this team we're looking at right now has at least one NBA draft pick. And I mean, so that alone tells you last year's team had a couple. And so I think you got to look at that. And yeah, when you, the team you talk about with Jerry Green, whatever you want to say about them, Yarbrough and Hazlett were both NBA draft picks, and everybody knew they were NBA draft picks when they played at Tennessee. People thought Tony Harris was an NBA draft pick. He wasn't. I thought Ron Slay should have been an NBA draft pick, and he wasn't. But look, I mean, yeah, those Pearl teams didn't have as much talent as you guys think. A lot of that was they were kind of chip on their shoulder overachievers.